Man, great to get out and compete today. Put the pads on is a significant step.
Hitting, the grinding, feeling the wear and tear, still playing fast when you got pads on, tackling through the ball.
Now we're putting the pads on, getting back to real football. You're going to be high energy. The guys are flying around out there on the field.
Mink is progressing nicely. I'd be surprised if we don't see him back on the practice field here in the next few days. Same thing with Larry O and Tyson. They're progressing nicely too. I'd be surprised. I don't expect those things to linger very much longer.
You are looking live at St. Vincent College, Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Welcome to Training Camp Live, presented by FedEx. I'm Mike Prisuta, along with Max Starks. You just heard from General Manager Omar Khan. No bad news is good news on the injury front. And, Max, we're just getting started out here at St. Vincent, but so far so good along those lines.
No, absolutely. When you hear that and what Omar Khan, came out and said, is that progression. And what we need from when you listen to the guys that's on that list, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Larry Ogunjobi, Tyson Alualu, those are known commodities. So to hear that they're progressing nicely, we don't need them today. We don't need them for day 2 of pads. We need them for a couple of preseason snaps to make sure you knock the rust off, and then we need them for the long haul. So the fact that they're in the right direction, that's all you can ask for right now.
Yeah, you could throw running back Najee Harris' name on that list as well. He got stepped on, according to Mike Tomlin yesterday, but as Tomlin expressed yesterday, Omar Khan this morning said nobody is concerned that that's going to be any kind of long-term thing. We have noticed some of the players making their way from the locker room down the steps and down the hill to the practice field, and Pat Freiermuth not suited up today. He's been out with a hamstring, and Levi Wallace, the cornerback the Steelers signed from the Buffalo Bills, experienced illness a couple of days ago. He's also not suited up today. We'll try to keep one eye on who is not looking like they're going to participate as we bounce around the field throughout today's show. But, Max, a lot to unpack from yesterday. And it was, of course, the first day in pads, which means we saw backs on backers. We saw team run, live tackling in that period. We saw 7 shots, live tackling in that period. And we also saw a tweak to the quarterback rotation. It's still Mitch Trubisky, number 1, at least it was yesterday. But Kenny Pickett getting second-team reps yesterday, and Mason Rudolph bumped down from the second team to the third team. Of course, Mike Tomlin was asked about that after practice yesterday. He said he wouldn't read anything into it. They just want to look at some different guys in some different spots. Does that kind of move get your attention, or do you expect we're gonna move the 3 cones around a little bit here till we find the one with the P under it?
No, it's absolute shell game at this point. You're trying to put guys in different situations to either succeed or to be in a disadvantageous position and overcome. I mean, that's really the biggest thing. It's achievement and overcoming obstacles, because throughout the season, what are you going to deal with? You're going to deal with guys getting injured. You're going to deal with guys not being at their optimal availability at all times. So you got to work through different scenarios. You got to work through different receiving combinations and different offensive line groupings
really all I could say.
to get a better pick on guys.
The way I look at it is that's a contract earned in the past, and now I got to earn the next one.
You're a pretty understated guy, but did you jump up and down or fist pump or anything?
No, I call my family and stuff like that, and called the girlfriend and just moved on.
Your family, your girlfriend, what does the stability of staying here for another 5 years kind of mean for that side of your life?
No, it's a good feeling, because coming in I only had this year. And, just to have that stability that I'll be here for the next couple of years, 4 or 5 years, and, we'll just see where it goes from there.
Well, Chris Boswell really excited about that new contract. He just jumped right in, cut you off, Max.
Yeah, I know. Listen, for Chris Boswell, a man of many words in a lot of respects, but what a tremendous job, getting that contract. That's nice. But as we see here, the quarterbacks are warming up. I think when you look at the rotations, you're going to see a lot of different rotations because you want to see what guys can do. Now, I know Mr. Trubisky to this point has been exclusively with the ones. Your first shakeup here is Kenny Pickett moving up to 2s, Mason Rudolph moving back to the 3s. But I think it's an opportunity for Kenny to see what he can do with a more veteran group in front of him, because that 3s and 4s are all rookies, new guys, all in the same boat. So you can't really get a read on if he's getting better or not. And I think that's why you move him up, to get him a little bit of some of the guys who've been around the system, guys fighting for a job, and a little bit more season. And for Mason, this is Mason working with young guys and new guys, because that's what it's going to take to be better as a quarterback.
Yeah, and to your point, the way the second offensive line ended up yesterday afternoon, now that has been transitional as well. They're working different guys in different levels of repetition in different spots. But when practice was over yesterday, the last second-team O-line configuration had Kevin Dotson on it. It had J.C. Hassenauer on it, John LeGlue, and Joe Haig. Those are all pretty recognizable names that all played significant snaps for the Steelers a year ago. You can't say that about the third line.
No, you cannot say that about the third line. So you're going to get a difference, and I think that's what they wanted to put Kenny in front of. Put him in front of a more seasoned offensive line that's actually been through, games, has been through the game-like progressions, and you're playing, more often than not against 1s and 2 mixed at that second unit. So you're getting a real taste of NFL speed, as opposed to I'm trying to figure it out speed, and I'm not making sure I don't get yelled at by Coach Dunbar if you're a D lineman.
So what'd you see from number 8 yesterday?
I saw still a little bit of timidness. I thought he got better in some points as far as some of the accuracy along the edges on the move. But then some of the touch balls, I'm still seeing a little bit of hesitation where he's looking at it a little bit too long before making the decision, and kind of either sailing it right behind the guy or just outside, on some of those touch throws, the over-the-shoulder throws, out of bounds to where the receiver can't go get it. But I thought on the move he was a lot better yesterday and started to look more comfortable.
Yeah, he had his moments. Saturday, he got his first rep in 7 shots, took the last rep, and threw a beautiful back pylon fade to Tyler Vaughn's. There was some, I don't want to say controversy, but it was uncertain as to whether Vaughn came down inbounds. I got to credit one of my media colleagues, Matt Freed of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, for getting a shot of the elbow coming down inbounds. 1 elbow equals 2 feet, right?
That's right.
So that was a conversion/touchdown. Beautiful play on both ends. And then yesterday, I thought Pickett made a real nice read on his second of 2 7 shots reps, and he found Connor Hayward open in the end zone, and Connor slipped and fell, and the ball went incomplete. But that play was executed. It just wasn't finished.
No, I think, and that's what you're getting to. You want to see, does the quarterback's vision, is he seeing the right read in those moments? And I think even though, people are like, oh my gosh, it's an incompletion to the fans sitting out here. But like you said, when you go back and you watch the film, was that the right read? When you look at all of the other receivers, were they covered up when you watch the eye in the sky? And on that one, I remember watching that film later on in the evening last night, and that was the pinpoint read. The other 2 guys were covered. They had 2 guys running pylon routes to the left.
And I thought he got there in a timely fashion, too.
Yeah,
it wasn't hold it.
Yeah, it
wasn't
the
defense
escape.
Get tired and then finally throw.
Exactly. No, he made a decision, went through his progressions. One, I think that was a second read, and threw it to Connor. There was a little bit a mix-up on kind of crossing off the routes, right? They were running rub routes in that situation. But yeah, that's what you want to see, and that's the growth. And I know Mitch Trubisky talked about this. I'm just out here to get a feel and try new things. That's along the lines. This is the testing ground. This isn't Friday Night Lights yet, and this isn't the Seattle game that's coming up. So you have a lot of opportunities to really test some things out, but we want to see progression from day to day.
That's kind of the sense I've gotten from Kenny Pickett, and I haven't heard – I'm sure he wants as much playing time as he can get, and he'd love to be the starter. But I haven't heard him show up with a lot of bravado. I'm going to win this job, and I'm the number 1 pick, and this is going to be my team. I want to get better. I want to be better tomorrow than I was today. I want to learn. I want to grow. And Omar Khan, echoing those statements during his press conference today, he was asked what would constitute a successful training camp from Kenny Pickett. And I'm going to paraphrase Omar here, but the response was basically the Steelers want him a lot further along at the end of it than he was at the beginning. Yeah. And you let the playing time and depth chart chips fall. But the idea, especially now with still 11 days till the Seattle game or something like that?
Yeah, something around there. Over a week.
Yeah.
Over a week.
They're still just working out the kinks.
Well, and that's what this is. I mean, I think a lot of people expect when training camp comes, we know who the starters are immediately, and we're going to work towards becoming a team. No, every year is a different journey. And for these quarterbacks, this is the first time we've had this quarterback competition in 18 years. The last time they had a quarterback competition, I was a rookie. So that's just goes to show you how long it's been.
And that wasn't even supposed to be.
No, it wasn't.
It worked out that way.
It happened to be that way. You know, Charlie gets injured, hurts his collarbone, and then St. Pierre gets injured, and Ben elevates through that process. And, of course, it was divine intuition at that point that he would move up in that fashion. But it's something that it's not an easy fix. I can't just point to a guy. We have 2 new guys on this team. Kenny Pickett being drafted, Mitch Trubisky, a free agent acquisition, and then you have Mason Rudolph, who's been the backup for the last 4 years to Ben and had some spot start duty. So it's going to be, we want to see what this experience is. A lot of mixed results throughout 2 of those 3, and so you want to see who can command the huddle, who brings the biggest calm to this offense and can operate with a confidence level that's indicative of going through a season.
Rudolph has kept his head down in an impressive fashion. To me, he has blocked out the noise, the elevator music, as Mike Tomlin might put it. You know, if they held a popular vote, I'm not sure he would win it, but he does not seem to be affected by what anybody but his teammates and coaches think of his game, and the only expectations he's trying to meet are theirs and his own. And I've been impressed by the way he's conducted himself. Yeah,
in a short word, it's this decorum. He's handled himself in the proper way that's indicative of a quarterback competition. Listen, I'm not here for a popularity contest. I'm here to win games, because at the end of the day, this game is based on wins and losses, and he needs to get on the win side of that, and that comes with execution. That comes with confidence and camaraderie, mesh with the receivers and the running backs, and showing that he has a mastery over this offense that Matt Canada's put together. So for him, he's fighting himself because he doesn't know the other guys. These guys weren't in the locker room last year. These are new guys, so you're getting to know them and trying to be a great teammate. But at the same time, it's 4 me's out there right now. They're not a team yet. There's no depth chart. There's no final roster that's made. It's 4 guys competing for 3 spots.
They've all talked about a certain esprit de corps around the position, and I think Pickett's called it a friendly competition, and they're all helping each other. Trubisky has said he's trying to do whatever he can to help anybody else that might want the advice of a guy who's as experienced starting as he is. Do we take them at their word, or is there a little competition, under the surface? Yeah, I'm going to be a nice guy, but mostly that's because I think I'm going to win this thing.
Yeah, you know how the janitor has, that little key ring that retracts and everything? Well, these guys all have a measuring stick. They're always measuring. So they're like a handyman, right? You always got the tool belt out, but you're going to help because you know that healthy competition, breeds better camaraderie. So you want to create a competitive environment, and what first thing is getting to know what it is you want to do. So, I took it upon myself when I was a second-year guy and moving forward throughout my career, was when rookies came in, I always wanted to give them everything they needed. If they asked me I said, listen, come to my room, we'll sit in, we'll watch extra film. I'll help you do this and develop what you need to do to be successful.
Even the Georgia guys?
Even the Georgia guys, because at the end of the day, it's the lovable loser, right? You love those guys.
Not lately, it's not.
Well, now, we're talking, 19 years later, of course, Mike. But back when I came in, I went 4-0 against Georgia. So, I felt bad for them, And so I always wanted to help every young guy come in. And I wanted to give them the tools. So I knew that when we went to competition and I beat them, I knew I beat them solidly. It wasn't like, I beat him on a technicality. No, I wanted to beat you outright for the job, and I wanted to make sure that everybody knew it. So you have that sense of responsibility, but at the same time, you're still measuring because you're still competing against that guy for the starting role.
That's been a subject that's come up, not just at the quarterback position, but at left guard. And I can recall talking to Kevin Dotson right at the end of minicamp, and he was addressing his competition with Kendrick Green. And he said, hey, I want it because that's going to make me the best I can be, and I want to be my best.
Yeah.
Competition does breed improvement and a rising of all boats. And Cam Sutton addressed it yesterday as well. He was talking about the defensive backs all, trying to share information and help each other out. And they've got a lot of guys and a lot of different packages and a lot of moving parts back there. And Cam Sutton said, hey, the football gods smile on people who cooperate and think of more than themselves and help other people. It's a team game.
Well, absolutely. And when I was on the field yesterday, just in between drills, I was behind the DBs for a little bit because Ike Taylor is a scouting intern here, and he's kind of following that group. So I was talking to Ike, and you could also see the guys communicating with each other, right? Whether it was Arthur Millette, Trey Norwood, Terrell Edmonds, and even Minka in street clothes, like all of them talking and trying to give a beat and trying to give a little bit of data on what does this receiver do, right? And when you see this, here's what you need to be aware of. And then also talking about the different calls that can go on between it. So you saw that kind of, inside the brain of the Steelers defense where you see the neurons firing, and that's the communication that's being passed between players that have to go out on the field and players that freshly come off the field. And that's an exercise in what's going to happen on game day. When you get on the field, you get burned for a touchdown. Hey, what happened? What was it? Or you had a great stop. What did you see that led to that key for you to make a PBU or an interception? All of that is stuff that you're building that groundwork here because you don't know what the team's going to be. So everybody has to communicate with everyone so that when you get to the season, it's not brand new.
Yeah, and you never know who's going to be playing 2 months from now either.
Yes, absolutely.
That guy you're thinking about ignoring right now because you don't want him to take your snaps, you might be playing with him against, Baltimore with a lot on the line.
Well, yeah, and he might be starting in your place because you're injured.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't, and the biggest thing, we call it high-siding, right? You can't high-side somebody on this squad because you don't know what their role is going to be with the team. So you treat everybody with respect until they give you a reason not to.
It's an interesting dynamic, and it's not just, veteran teammate and younger teammate. The Steelers got a little thing going where the alumni even contribute.
Yeah.
And left offensive tackle Dan Moore Jr. talked today about reaching out to a couple of alumni to help hone his game.
Definitely. One of them is around here a lot, Max. Talking to Big Max a lot, and just getting to know him. And I had someone in the training room, I want to say it was John Norwood, who mentioned that name to me. And he blocked a long time for Big Ben. So definitely want to have my name up there for sure.
What kind of advice has he been giving you? What has he been telling you?
Can you say it again?
What kind of advice have you been getting from Max? How's he been
not only Max, Ramon Foster, just keep improving, keep working technique, keep leading, just basically keep doing what I'm doing.
What's that bond mean to you with the guys that played your position or played on the line that are reaching out and giving you advice?
It means a lot. It means that they're seeing something in me. Obviously guys aren't going to waste their time to help someone if they don't really see that potential. So for sure that means a lot, obviously.
You buried that.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
You never mentioned it. These guys are reaching out to you. Max, what do I do?
Yeah. Well, I think in the biggest thing, from my role, especially when I'm looking at Dan, like Dan's in a unique position. You get thrust into the starting job at left tackle right out the gate, and you compete through a whole season. And, it can be very lonely as the young guy that, who am I looking to in a young room? So, you kind of throw those words in and Dan's such a great young man. I remember watching him at Texas A&M and following his career. So, you want to let guys know, you want to put some love on them when they're doing the right thing, but also provide guidance when things aren't going as well, to at least keep them motivated and keep them in line. And he's a tremendous young man, that we can talk and have a conversation, and he understands that if I am providing something that's negative, it's a critique, and it's also something to help him. I'm never going to just pour it on and be negative. I'm also give you tools to make sure that you can be successful and that you have something that you're learning and practicing moving forward. So, a lot of expectations for him coming into year 2 at left tackle. But I think, as we can see here, he's got big, long arms and big, broad shoulders. I think he can shoulder that burden. And he did a great job last year in that duty, not knowing what it was going to be and then just rising to the occasion. I think he's taken that responsibility and he's running with it.
And included in that, I think, is the way he handled struggles. And of course, as a rookie left tackle, you're going to struggle. But a number of people commented last season on his toughness and competitiveness and just grasp of the big picture. Hey, I'm not a finished product. I'm not an expert at this yet. But Ben Roethlisberger said late last season he thought that Dan Moore would be the left tackle here for a long time. If you agree, tell me why.
No, I agree. I think he has the mentality. He has the size and the mobility and the agility that you want in today's left tackle. Yes, did he struggle against like Trey Hendrickson? But you could also see him learning and taking account of what was the experience, right? So that the next time you come around, you're better prepared to handle those guys. The Max Crosby's. I mean, how many All-Pros and Pro Bowlers did he go against last night? He went against about some of the best that you could possibly ask for, and he did it week in and week out. And that's one of the things. He's building his what I like to call requisite job experience, right? Every game is a resume builder for him, and he did it. He didn't get too down on himself when he gave up a sack or a pressure, and he just went back and responded the next play and gave effort, would forget about the bad, and would always harness the good and continue to work better. So for me, I believe in him. I think he has the ability to be here for a very long time and be a fixture on that offensive line. And I think he's going about it the right way. He's not assuming it. He's not expecting it. He's simply taking the opportunity that's given to him and playing with the chips that he has.
If he is to make the anticipated improvement this season, how's that going to show up on Sunday? Is it going to be just a gradual overall grasp of things, or is there maybe one or two things that he really needed to fix in his game?
Well, I think the biggest thing is going to be, I'm going to be looking for, is going to be consistency in his set. He kind of changed up his set a little bit, trying to figure out. So, when you see that, he's like, oh, man, okay, he doesn't have confidence in one set or one stance. And that's a young guy. I remember I went through it. I literally switched my set, I want to say about 5 or 6 times, in my rookie camp.
Oh, I don't remember that at all. I remember you just showing up and taking over. And
yeah, exactly, and just automatically dressing in street clothes on week 1. Yeah, no, it was great. But that's one of the things that from year 1 to year 2, when you go back and you self-scout yourself, like, okay, what works best for me? And then you start working towards that to make everything look uniform. One of the things that makes Joe Thomas so great, right, and why he'll eventually be a Hall of Famer is that Joe had the same exact set every single play. When he looked at his stance, you couldn't tell if it was run or pass. And that's one of the things that I think if Dan can get to that, especially at the left tackle position, where they're looking at every nuance, every key against you, and you're watching that on yourself to make sure you're not giving away keys, that's going to be a big step forward for him. And then also it's more grasp in the run game.
What's before we get off the tell for a second, is that foot position or maybe lean or
it's stance.
Where you're looking?
So stance starts with feet, hips, shoulders, how you line up every single time that you don't give the defense a key. So when I come up in line, you should not be able to tell if it's a run or a pass based on my stance. Now, you can look at formations if you're studying film and guess 50-50, but an offense should be able to run and pass out of every formation. So if I can make my stance look the same no matter what the formation or no matter what it is, or I have two. I have an open side, which means the tight end's not next to me, stance, and then I have a closed side, which is where the tight end is there, and I have a different set. If you just have one, no more than 2 stances, that means you're doing your job and you're preventing from giving the defense a key.
Of course, yesterday
that's a good stride, by the way. I just want to let you know. That's purposeful right there.
Guy that big, that's
not lumbering. That's not lumbering.
Guys are different than they used to be, the big guys.
Yeah, they're athletic. I mean, it looks like me.
Very much. Backs on backers, a big highlight of the first day in pads, and we always make a big deal about it in the media. Hey, it's fun to watch. It's competitive, and there's usually some trash talking, and usually somebody gets knocked on their backside, and somebody stands out. But I know you took a deep dive into it yesterday afternoon from, right in the middle of it and then further reviewing it. What stood out to you?
Jaylen Warren, offensively, Jaylen Warren, number 30, the rookie, was not afraid. I said this. He was not afraid to put his face in the fan. And he was a young man that went in there when tasked with all the different linebackers. He's taking the inside backers at depth. And he was going and meeting them. He wasn't waiting for them to come to him and give him a move. He was bringing the fight to them. And he was using his hands, and it was unique. Obviously, he's not a very tall guy, but he's a very thick and lower body guy. So he would get down in his base, and he would explode on a diagonal up and into the chest of the linebackers. In fact, one of them was against Robert Spillane, And he had a solid lockout, to where, Robert just quit on the play. He's like, nope, I'm blocked on this one. I thought that was good. I thought also
– Yeah, and that was interesting because they started out, and Mike Tomlin will orchestrate that drill.
Yes. Oh, that's his drill.
It's at the discretion. They serve at the pleasure of the president.
Yeah, exactly.
If he says get in there and do another one, you do another one. And if I'm remembering right, they started out with Warren against Mark Robinson, the seventh-round inside linebacker, and they went at it 3 reps.
In a row.
Tiebreaker, and then they threw Warren up against Robert Spillane, and I think Mike Tomlin said something to the effect, hey, you want a little varsity action, get in there against Spillane, and it worked out well.
It worked out really well for him, and he also showed up in some of the team pass and team run periods as well, making some great blocks and making some great cuts. So, Jalen Warren was definitely one of the guys that stood out to me. Obviously, Najee Harris is Najee Harris. He was the highlight. That was Tomlin's hand-picked match on the fight card. He wanted Miles Jack versus Najee Harris, and that was a heck of a way to start it. And Najee had 2 really good reps.
Yeah, we had Jack on after the practice was over, and he said Harris got him on the what he called the blocking drill, which the pass protection drill. But he said he warmed to the task. He ended up with a TFL on Harris in the team run.
Oh yeah, he came back. He answered it. Now, and that was another guy. Miles Jack is one of the guys that you looked at him on backers. And he's a guy that he has wiggle, he has pop, he's explosive, he makes a decision, he goes, and I love to see it. And I think when we look at more of it, guys were kind of feeling their way out. Benny Snell had his ups and downs. Connor Hayward had his ups and downs. Raider and Gentry. The tight ends, I would say Connor Hayward was definitely fighting, in all those, because he's an undersized guy in the group. When you got guys 6'8", at the same position as you, and you're sitting about 6'1", 6'2", it's a little bit of a mismatch. And I think he answered the call on that one. But it was a fun drill. It didn't have as much pop as I remember. So, and I don't know if that's Guardian Cap related or not. But
I think it's James Ferrier and Larry Foote don't work here anymore related.
That too, or Lawrence Timmons.
Yeah. They used to add a little something to the drill.
Exactly. No, Lawrence Timmons, we used to call him lowbrow. Which means he definitely was a thick-headed individual, and he would bring it to you.
Getting back to Jack for a second, I mentioned we had him on the wrap-up show yesterday, and I'll pull the curtain back a little bit for people who have tuned in and let you see how the sausage is made a little bit. We're trying to set up an interview where he's down on the field and I'm up here, and there's some technical things that have to be sorted out, and we're early in camp, and we didn't have it ready to go right away. Miles Jack waited it out, and our crew fixed it. But I'm here to tell you, not everybody would wait.
Patience is not a virtue.
You want to interview me right after practice? I'm tired. I'm hot. I got stuff to do. Oh, we can't do it. See ya. He waited it out, and then he was basically giddy talking about just the chance to tackle.
Yeah.
And this is a seventh-year guy.
Yeah.
Chance to tackle in practice, and the atmosphere out here, the amount of fans. He kept saying, that's not a regular thing. He said that a couple times. He is – I remember talking to him after the Steelers signed him. He was all in then, and he's all in now. I think Miles Jack is going to come in here, Max, as advertised in terms of being a thumper and a hammer. But, boy, is he what Mike Tomlin might refer to as an energy giver.
Yeah. Well, and also, let's face it, you also compare it against Jacksonville. I don't know anybody that goes to a Jacksonville practice. And says, oh, my gosh, I can't wait to get to Jacksonville practice on my day off. No, said almost no one ever in Duval County. But I think, Miles brings an energy, a tenacity. But I think he recognizes what the tradition is here with the Steelers. He understands the history of this linebacking position. We mentioned earlier Larry Foote, James Ferrier, just to name a few. Then you go back and you see Ham and Lambert. And knowing what the history is behind not only the defense but the linebacking position here and the tradition, you're always excited about becoming a part of that tradition. And the fact that he gets to come up here and play and, like you said, compete, he's healthy. Those are all the things that are a recipe for success when you have a guy of that type of ilk down there waiting, being patient, because he understands the importance of, talking to the media and what that means, but also showing up on the field as well and making sure that people know what number he wears.
He had a couple of seismic collisions with Derek Watt in that drill as well.
No, I don't. Talk about hammer and nail. Yeah, no, he was a jackhammer, sledgehammer, whichever type of hammer of mass, velocity, and destruction. That's what he was on those drills.
Just saw there's Derek Watt in the running backs. We saw the running backs a few minutes ago, and you may have noticed that Najee Harris not in uniform today. He got stepped on, according to Mike Tomlin yesterday, but it's not considered to be any type of long-term concern. And Jeremy McNichols, the running back that they brought in, he's played for, I believe, 5 teams in his brief NFL career. He's dealing with a shoulder, so he is among the players not suiting up today as well. But Miles Jack certainly showed up yesterday, and Robert Spillane, part of that 3-into-2 equation that they have going on at inside linebacker. Spillane also noticeable in backs on backers. He went against Najee Harris as well.
Yeah.
And Miles Jack talked about that in our interview in the wrap-up show yesterday. He's all for it because it's keeping everybody fresh, and it's giving Jack a chance to acclimate himself to a new team and the nuances, he called it, of the Steelers' defense. Robert Spillane, a guy that just keeps forcing himself into conversations, Max.
Well, Robert Spillane, I think one of the things that you know, he's an all-around type of guy. You know, he's one of those guys that's like, hey, you need this done. I'm not an expert at it, but, you know, I'll give it a try, and he makes it work. And I think Robert Spillane, he adds not only linebacking skill and knowledge of this defense, but also he's a core special teams guy. So if you could contribute in special teams and play punt, return, kickoff coverage, kickoff return, and you could still play a position on offense and defense, that makes you even more invaluable. And that's one of the things. He's just like a little Swiss Army knife out there for the defense.
Of course, he had that mammoth hit on Derrick Henry a couple of years ago in Tennessee. I think that one's going to live on in Steeler lore. But making some plays in the passing game this year, and I think he's been more, to this point, a run stuffer than a guy who excels in coverage. But he had a nice interception last week on Mitch Trubisky on a seam ball, and yesterday a pass defensed in 7 shots. What is Robert Spillane doing, or what does he need to do to continue bringing more of a pass coverage presence into his game?
Well, I think it's keys and, you know, foot speed. I mean, if you're not going to have the foot speed, then you need to also have better awareness of the route and your spatial awareness. And I think that's something that he's been working on, is figuring out, okay, if I do have the curl flat area and I know that I'm not blitzing, I'm going to show, but I might bail a little bit earlier to get to my responsibility so that I can react accordingly, as opposed to I'm all in on the sell and then I'm just going to try and recover. He's learned, and we've seen that that's not necessarily the case. And not to say it's a bad thing, but, you know, I remember that Kansas City game, you know, he's taking Travis Kelce off the line on a shallow drag, and he couldn't keep up with him. I'm like, so that's one of those where maybe I do take a little bit off. Maybe I do sit a little bit inside and kind of reroute him before he gets into his full speed. And those are the nuanced things that you just continue to learn. He knows how to hit. He knows how to run fill. So now it's adding that nuance, and I think that's what's going to be the continuing thing, is understanding sense of self and what your limitations are, and then also, you know, playing with a little bit of an advantage or taking a little bit of a chance and, you know, not to say it's cheating, but keying in on what your responsibilities are.
We're taking a look at the cornerbacks warming up here, and they're doing a little one guy runs a route and the other guy covers them. What's the point of this exercise?
So this exercise is just figuring out vision. You know, it's going to work on your jam right off. You know, so these are more press situations, and then you kind of work off coverage where you're in an area, and then you have to pick up responsibility. So if guys are in off coverage, you got twins receivers to one side, 2 receivers on one side, and they're about to run some type of crossing route or some type of what we call you-me calls, right, for the defense, where they're going to have to call out and trail a guy afterwards. That's what this is working. So you're going to work press right now, which is getting hands-on and realizing I need those hands off after 5 yards, and then can I shadow this guy and make sure he does not beat me in any of those situations, and then anticipate where the route's going to go.
So they're not working on this just to determine, okay, if you can't cover another cornerback, you can't cover Jamar Chase either.
No, this is not that drill.
We're not that
drill. No.
Not reading that much into it.
No, that would be bringing George Pickens over here, having run streak routes with to see if you could cover
we'll get to that eventually.
Yeah.
But I mentioned earlier the moving parts in that secondary. Levi Wallace coming in from Buffalo, and Terrell Edmonds coming back at safety. Minka Fitzpatrick, you might have caught him still with the non-shoulder pad look. How do you see
camo bucket hat? I mean, it's a pretty fashionable statement.
I almost didn't see him because of the camo.
Exactly, he blended in.
How do you see this shaking out? We've seen a little bit of everything to this point, but we keep seeing Cam Sutton moving inside into sub-package stuff. with Akello Witherspoon and Wallace on the outside, or whatever the two outside guys are. But do you see Cam Sutton continuing to maintain that varied role that he embraced last year?
From what I've seen right now, I think, it's, Cam is one that you want to see him in the slot, but you also want to know that he can go outside. So when you have two DB sets, but I mean, let's face it, it's going to be three wide receivers for a majority of these teams. You want to see, can he move in and out? Also seeing Arthur Millette in there at some of the slot stuff and trying to figure out what these combinations and packages are. I think for Cam, it's going to be just that confidence. It's making a determination, hey, listen, I'm an outside guy. I want to show you that I'm an outside guy, but, I still got the skill set that when in a pinch, I can slide inside. But I want to own the outside because that's the glory position, right? It's being the outside cornerback. It's not being the slot roll guy. So for him, he's just got to continue to make sure he shows his dominance in those one-on-one situations when you get ISO'd or when motion goes away and you're left solo with the DB, with the wide receiver. Can you make sure that you keep the guy in front of you? And that was that drill we kind of saw a couple moments ago, was them working on press, working on hands, working on body positioning to not get beat deep.
I think that might be changing a little, though, at least the way it's perceived, because isn't that slot position growing in prominence on the offensive side? And there's not just, okay, put the little guy in there and let him run the little 8-yard curl-ins. I mean, look at the way the Steelers are playing offense. Everybody, it seems, is taking a turn inside, and you're getting some pretty good people lining up in the slot, so you need to put some pretty good people opposite them, do you not?
Yeah, and if you get into man situations, declaration, maybe the man that you're tasked with is in that slot. So it's something that you have to be versatile. You can't just be a Richard Sherman, right? I play one side of the ball, and that's the only side that I play, and that's all I'm going to do. No, you have to be able to travel. You have to be able to play in and out of your responsibility. That's what takes a knowledge of knowing the entire defense. But also at the same time, like you said, offenses are now getting key to that. One of the other teams that I cover is the Arizona Cardinals. And what they've done is they have everybody rolling through the slot. They have Hollywood Brown there now. They have a bunch of other guys that are there, and everybody's getting a turn at it. So for the Steelers, especially in this situation, we have Deontay Johnson not available. You have Chase Claypool not available. Well, when they are available, where do those guys fit in? It's going to be at a slot position, so you have to work guys across the board to make sure that they're crossover ready and that you don't have to say, you're the X, you're the Z. It's go out there and play, and we'll line you up, and you just listen for the play call and make sure you can answer it.
A couple other guys that you thought stood out yesterday. Let's talk about the other rookie receiver, Calvin Austin III, number 19.
Stickums. I'm going to call him Stickums. That's his new nickname for right now. He catches everything. And that was one of the things. He went in yesterday, caught a contested catch in the middle of the pile, but he also has the touch to catch the over-the-shoulder fades and different throws on the outside. And he's just proving time and time again, get me the ball, and I'm going to make something good happen. Plus, it doesn't help that he has a lot of speed on his side.
Of course, we have another item of the day for you here, the Steelers Pro Shop item of the day. It is a Steelers St. Vincent College football. Can't come to camp without
the old training camp football.
Come out to camp and have a ball. Max and I are doing that each and every day. Max, good talk.
Yeah, this is fun.
Let's do it again tomorrow.
Yes, let's definitely do this tomorrow. Except for we'll do it as the wrap show.
Yeah, we're switching off in case anybody hasn't noticed between Craig Wolfley and Max Starks, because you have to be position flexible, especially for Steelers.com. Until the wrap-up show, that's going to do it for now. Thanks for finding us. For Max Starks, I'm Mike Prisuta. This has been Training Camp Live, presented by FedEx.